In this video, I'm going to talk about junk food addiction and what to do about it. Don't forget to check out my free 7-day challenge, Stop Overeating in 7 Days, and if you want to speak with me, there is a link in the description box below. Junk food, let's talk about that. We all love junk food, the cookies, the crackers, the ice cream, it's all great. I didn't necessarily have a junk food addiction, I just had a binge eating problem, binge eating, overeating. But the thing is, we don't like to binge eat on carrots and hummus. We typically binge on stuff like cookies and ice cream. We like to binge and overeat on things that are high in salt, sugar, and fat. So we're not really talking about junk food addiction per se, but we are talking about binge eating and overeating. But we do typically tend to overeat all the good stuff. And if you're watching this, you probably don't have a problem eating too many apples. You probably have a problem of eating too much apple pie. So what do you do about junk food addiction? Let's get to it. So why is junk food so unhealthy, and how do you break a junk food addiction? In my case, I developed an eating disorder when I became too restricted. I was orthorexic, I was counting everything, I was measuring everything, I was really neurotic. I just couldn't eat anymore. I was thinking about my next meal, planning everything, counting macros. None of it really made me healthier. It just made me sicker and more obsessive, and it consumed a lot of my energy. Then that totally backfired. I started chewing and spitting, then I started binging and purging, then I just became a chronic binge eater, and I was binge eating all the good stuff that everybody likes, like the cookies and the ice cream and the salty snacks and the frozen burritos and the fast food. And who can forget my favorite? Milkshakes. Yes, they were all technically classified as junk food, but they were just high in salt, sugar, and fat, which means they were very high in calories, which is what my brain wanted. My brain was trying to protect me, but the thing is, there was no famine, there was no starvation. But I had trained my brain to detect a famine, and every time I got that urge to overconsume, to binge on milkshakes and cookies and Chipotle burritos, I was training it to send me more urges and more cravings. My restrictive diet created the urges in the first place, but it's the habit that sustained it for so long. But there are some other reasons why junk food is so addictive. First of all, junk food is hedonic. It's not designed to satiate you. When I say it's hedonic, I mean it's designed to provide pleasure. It's not designed to make you full. There is a place for hedonic eating in your diet, but when you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to maintain a low body weight, that window, that gap, that percentage, whatever you want to call it, is very low. I'm talking about 10%, meaning 90% of what you eat should be designed to satiate you, to nurture you, and then the other 10% can be entertainment. I'm not going to be somebody like Mark Hyman or Joel Fuhrman who tells you that everything you eat has to be super nutritious. That's really hard to do. That's like hitting a bullseye from 100 meters. But I think the 90-10 rule really works. If you have a high metabolic rate, or you're working out a lot, or you don't have a tendency to gain weight, you can probably go 80-20. I just don't know a lot of healthy people who are in good shape who eat more than 20% of their calories from junk food. The other thing you need to know about junk food is that it's intentionally designed to make you eat more. Food manufacturers have this thing called the bliss point. The bliss point is that point, that perfect amount of salt, sugar, and fat in foods, primarily sugar, that lights up your brain. They really know how to press your button and make you consume more. They pay food chemists lots of money every year on different experiments to find that one perfect food that makes you eat more. Here's the thing, most of the foods that they release onto the market fail. Most people don't respond. It doesn't have the right texture, it doesn't have the right look. Something doesn't work. It just doesn't click with our brains. But once they find that food, like an Oreo cookie, they've produced billions of Oreos since it came out in the 1920s. Who makes that? I think that's Nabisco, Nestle, whatever. That was a winning formula. They're always looking for the next Oreo. They're always looking for the next Lay's potato chip. They're looking for that big blockbuster that's going to make you go, wow. They're not looking for foods that are going to make you eat less. Nobody's trying to create the next broccoli or the next cashew. They're not. They're looking for that food that's going to make you keep coming back. Another thing about junk food, it's really easy to overeat. In fact, it's so easy to overeat that I count the bites. Literally. I used to be really neurotic, and I used to put it on a scale and I took it off. That's okay once or twice just to get an idea of what a typical portion size is. I don't do that anymore. I just don't have the time to weigh things. Although once in a while I will put something on a scale just just to see. It's fun sometimes. I like to track and I like numbers, but you don't have to do that all the time. But if I'm eating something that's really high in calories, let's say tortilla chips. Tortilla chips are my bête noire, I should say. That combined with guacamole is a deadly combination. But I actually count the chips. Here's what I do. When I go to a Mexican restaurant, they bring those hot chips onto the table. I actually limit myself to 5. Really, just 5. Just enough to taste. If that's too hard, if it's too hard to limit yourself to 5, then just don't have any. But when I'm eating something that's really high in calories, I'm very conscious of portions and I'm very conscious of how much I'm eating. I never eat it when I'm distracted. I'm never eating it mindlessly. That's how you get into trouble. Another thing I do is I keep junk food in my home. And here's why. You don't have to do this. You need to be well into your recovery before you try this. But I keep it in my home for a couple of reasons. One, I like to prove to myself that I can keep it nearby without eating it. It's just, to me, it's like I'm claiming victory over eating disorders when I do that. It's like I have control, not the junk food. The second reason is if I want it, it's always there. And I like that feeling. I like the feeling of knowing that it's available when I want it. And I don't have to keep my cabinets and my refrigerator completely empty like I did for many years. That's not necessary. I once read about this triathlete and he was so strict that he would literally go to the local grocery store and buy exactly what he needed for that meal because he didn't trust himself. Think about that. You have to go to the grocery store every time you want to eat and only buy exactly what you need and get rid of the rest. That's not freedom, okay? That's like living in your own prison. And he admits now that he wasn't free, that he wasn't happy as a racer because it's like he had created this own prison in his head. I've also heard of people who can only eat the same meal over and over in the exact same quantity every day. Is that freedom to you? I don't know. Everybody's different. That's not freedom to me. That seems like I'm living in a prison. And if I go off the path, even an inch, then I'm in dangerous territory. Junk food is actually a myth. And here's what I mean. There is no such thing as junk food. There are foods that you should emphasize more, and there are foods that you should emphasize less. For example, you should eat broccoli and raw almonds more than you eat chocolate cookie dough ice cream, more than you should eat chocolate chip cookies, more than you should eat potato chips. But that doesn't mean you should never eat it. Some foods have micronutrients that you really need. Some foods have fiber, which is what you also need. But the thing about junk food, it has the most important macronutrient, which is calories. You absolutely need calories. If you don't have calories, nothing happens. You're going to get really cranky. You're going to be lethargic. You're not going to be able to do the activities that you want. So I would argue that junk food has what you need most, and that's calories. So it's not technically a junk food. It just doesn't have a lot of fiber, doesn't have a lot of protein, and doesn't have a lot of micronutrients. One thing that most junk foods have in common is that they're usually high in fat, and they're usually high in sugar, but they don't have a lot of protein, and they don't have a lot of fiber, and they have very low water content. So you have very high caloric density, low satiety value, and very high palatability value. Put all three of those together and you have a dangerous combination. One of my hobbies is to go to the grocery store and just look at the new flavors. I love going to the protein bar section, the energy bar section. There's always something new. Now that doesn't mean that energy bars are junk food, although a lot of them are junk and you don't necessarily need them. It's just fun to look at all the new products that they're coming out with each year. The chips, they always have new chips, new cereals, new cookies. I don't necessarily try it. I just like to see what they're producing. Try it sometime. It's kind of fun. Yes, junk food does have calories and it has the most important macronutrient. And it does play some role in your diet, but people who eat too much of it run into problems. They tend to be heavier, they have less fitness, they have poor gut health, they have more micronutrient deficiencies. It's not good. You shouldn't be eating nothing but Snickers bars and sweet bread and ice cream. I don't know a lot of fit, healthy people who eat like that because you need those micronutrients. You need the fiber, you need the water. And unfortunately, processed food removes all of that. Remember, processed food, junk food, it's for entertainment purposes only. And it should not be the principal source of your calories. Can you eat junk food to lose weight? Absolutely. I did. But I was very conscious of portions. and I was very aware of what I was doing. I didn't sit there and eat granola, which is really just glorified sugar, I think, while I was doing paperwork. I didn't sit there and eat M&Ms out of the bag while I was doing paperwork or while I was doing some kind of assignment. I always ate those deliberately and intentionally, and I always made sure I never overate them. Sometimes I even counted the number of M&Ms I was eating. That's the level of awareness you need to eat junk food, and if you can't do that, then don't eat it. And I also limited the junk food to about 10 or 15% of my calories. Here's why I ate junk food when I was losing weight. I ate it because if I eliminated it during the weight loss phase, I would have to eliminate it forever. One of my rules of weight loss is the way you lose weight is the way you maintain it. So if you're going to lose weight drinking celery juice and kale smoothies, that's the way you're going to have to maintain it. You can't eat one diet to lose the weight and then adopt a new diet to maintain it. It won't work. The diet you have now to lose the weight is the same diet that you're going to have to maintain it. Just keep that in mind. If you're going to banish junk food from your diet now, you're going to have to do that to maintain the weight. So junk food can make us less healthy. It can make us gain weight. It can damage our teeth, damage our gut. It's almost like, why eat it at all? Well, that's a good question. You don't necessarily need junk food. You don't need all this processed food. And that's a judgment call you're going to have to make. Is it worth opening the bag just to eat a few chips? Can you trust yourself to limit your portions? Can you trust yourself to only eat a little bit? Some people can, others can't. You can be perfectly healthy and happy without junk food. But if there are one or two junk foods that you really like for me, fig cookies and chocolate chip cookies, okay, and M&Ms. Those are just awesome. Okay, I don't eat them every day, but I would hate to tell myself I would never have another one again. Could I live without M&Ms and chocolate chip cookies? Absolutely. But I just don't want to tell myself never, and that's why I keep it in my home. But in the end, junk food is like a stimulating drug. I'm not going to say that sugar is like cocaine. I think that's a little hyperbolic. But it does have that effect. It makes us feel good. It makes us want more. It can produce cravings. Is junk food an addiction? That's for you to decide. I think that word is overused. But people can become hooked on this junk food. Why? Because that's how it's designed. It's designed to get you hooked. Hope you found this video educational and entertaining. If you liked this video on junk food, then I'm sure you'll like some of the other videos that you see on the screen. Click one of them, and I'll see you there.